Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now today we're back doing a Scottish beer. And I'm not really sure. This could have cost £2.25 or it could cost £2.35. I'm not really sure, but obviously I'll confirm it down below. But we're doing one from Glasgow, and we're actually doing a stout. So it's West Brewery Black Stout. Now it's a 330ml bottle because again they seem to think, I don't know, maybe they class their beer as so wonderful that we really have to kind of restrict people from getting it, or prevent them from having too much of it because they would just go mental for it. I mean, seriously, they would go off their heads, just couldn't cope with it. It's just so bloody wonderful. Or maybe they're just greedy, cheap bastards. I mean, who knows? But anyway. Excuse me. That was good. I feel so much better now. Oh. But anyway, this is brewed in Glasgow. It's actually brewed fairly close to Glasgow Green, which is kind of in the south, kind of eastern side of Glasgow. And I actually played football. I played a few football matches over the years in Glasgow Green, so I have played for different teams and everything else. So yes, and so there's now a brewery there, but it's a smaller brewery. It's not a big brewery, but there is some spiel in the back. It's 4.6%, so it's not a heavy, rich stout, is it? Going by that kind of alcohol content. Obviously, it's kind of at the age of kind of more kind of traditional stouts. I mean, obviously you've got your Irish kind of stouts that are kind of lower alcohol. But this is probably just at the kind of starting edge because you're talking about roughly about 4.5 up to maybe 4.5. Sorry, 4.5 starting up to maybe about 5.5. Sometimes maybe a little bit more than that. But that's the kind of normal range, alcohol range you would get for a traditional stout. That's if this is a traditional stout. I don't know. One of the things I know they do say is that they don't add anything else. So I think they're working basically, it's just the grains, the malts, the grains, the yeast, the hops, the water, and that's it. I don't think they claim they don't add anything else. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I honestly really don't know. But we'll find out. So here's a bit of spiel on it. It says rich chocolate coffee, apparently. So, it's vegetarian and vegan friendly. That's a relief. Oh, we're so worried. Anyway, our stout is a pitch black ale bursting with roasty, toasty flavours of coffee, treacle, and dark chocolate. Reminiscent of a French roast coffee, it has a fudgy aroma and smoky flavour. Perfect poured cold, but watch the flavour profile change if you let the temperature work up a little. Proudly brewed in Glasgow in strict adherence to the Reinheitsgebot, the German purity laws of 1516. So I know they do a lot of kind of more German style beers. They do kind of the Bavarian Red. They do kind of Vienna lagers, all this kind of stuff. So yes, they're trying to kind of say that they're following the kind of purity laws that they had in Germany. Well, they've got in Germany, that obviously originated in Germany. But they're also going to remember that we had similar laws in the UK for our ales that were kind of thrown by the wayside. And a good example, Slurpy Dave will confirm that they still work to them laws in the Isle of Man. So they work to them kind of purity laws, especially on the basis no adjuncts, no additional flavours. It's all got to come from the original grains, yeast and hops. And if it doesn't, then you're not going to get that flavour. So It's not such a great thing. I mean, we still have it to an extent in some areas of the UK, but at one point, the majority of the UK used to be like that. So again, when they start singing the praises of all the German purity laws, oh really? Aye. So like, well, do you a bit of fucking history and you realise we had very similar type of laws here as well. Strange that. Well, anyway, well, in some ways it was actually stricter as well because we also brought in the alcohol levels as well, which of course they weren't ABVs then, there were proofs then. But what they used to work out was the case is though that if you were brewing it traditionally, the way it should be, and with the ratios you were claiming was in your recipe, then you couldn't get above a certain proof. And if you did, then they would basically go after you thinking, how the fuck did you manage to get that? Because what the hell have you been adding to kind of boast of that? So it used to go even further than they have with these German purity laws. So there you go, eh? It's amazing, eh? They'll lick the arse of Europe, but they won't basically believe in their own country. It's amazing that. Right, anyway, got a baby glass. Although I've actually got a Hawkstone one for some strange reason. I picked up the wrong one. Oh, well, sorry. So, let's crack it open. It's slightly chilled. I haven't basically over chilled it. And then see what it's like. You've got smoke in the glass. Let's pour it out and see what it's like. Ooh, you cheeky boy. There we go. Right. Got an itchy leg, for God's sake. I don't know. I've got a fucking rash or something. You know, I don't know how I managed to get that. I'm not going to investigate it. I'm not going to discuss it further. Right. This is an interesting one because I did a nitro stout from Philip Clarkson's kind of collaboration with the Hawkstone Brewery. Well, it's not Hawkstone, is it? It's basically the brand's called Hawkstone, but I think the Cotswold Brewery that actually makes it. And that had lashings of aroma. This, I'm just getting little hints of chocolate, but very little aroma. No, I was just talking about flavours. I don't talk about aromas, which is just as well, because there doesn't seem to be any. Although French roast coffee is one of my favourite. I do like a prison French roast coffee. One of my kind of addictions. And the coffee front. I'm just ashamed that you don't get it so easily over here. But anyway. So yeah, it's kind of lacking in the aroma. It's kind of down a bit. So, bite the bullet and see what it tastes like. Well, there you go. There's a laugh from the water. Get a slight metallic off it. Reminiscent of Glasgow water that's used in Tennent's lager. So I've got a slightly metallic edge to the back end of this. Flavour. It's a bit down in the flavour, I would say. It's a lot lighter on the flavour than what I'd expect. Well, it's all right saying about German purity laws and everything else. Well, guess what? Even under the German purity laws, the Germans don't make stouts. And there's a reason for that, is because they're not the best with roasted malts or roasted grains. And one of the big things, roasted grains is a big kind of problem. Even though they actually had a history of they were very good at burning the arse out of grains, you couldn't actually roast them very, very well. Used to burn the arse out of them. That's why basically the original kind of German lagers weren't all these light, crisp pilsners. They were dark black lagers. Not because it's the case as though they were using darker grains roasted. No, they were using lighter strains of grain, but just unfortunately they were pretty crap at basically roasting them. Same with the malts. And used to burn the arse out of them until they stole that technology from the British. More so the actual English, really. But yes, like I've said in the past, if it wasn't for them stealing the kind of roasting technology from the English for their ales, then you wouldn't have had your Czech Pilsners or your wonderful German Pilsners, because at the end of the day, they were making dark lagers because that's all they could bloody make, because they couldn't actually lightly roast. It was basically always overshot the mark by quite a margin. There you go. And yeah, they've gone a bit light here in the recipe. God, it's like smokiness. No, I'm not really getting any smokiness. French roast coffee, that dark French kind of treacle like coffee. Nope, not getting that. In fact, I'm getting a sweetness there that really shouldn't be there. I'm getting sweetness more associated with a kind of dark lager than I would be a stout. So there's your first problem. It really shouldn't have that kind of sweetness there. It doesn't have any bitterness to it. It doesn't really have much of a chocolate flavour. There's no real kind of chocolate, kind of dark, bitter kind of chocolate edge to it. There's no real kind of coffee edge to it. It's just, I'll be totally honest, if somebody poured that in a glass, I would actually call it closer to a dark lager. And with the level of carbonation, because again, it's overly carbonated as well. Too much CO2. So, I mean, seriously, they've just got it wrong in so many different levels. I mean, as a beer, it's okay. If I was taking it as a beer, yeah, it's quite a nice beer. If it were basically bottled as a kind of dark lager, more of a dunkel or something like that, I would say it's probably closer to a dunkel than it would be a traditional kind of British stout. So there you go. There's a little bit of chocolate flavour, a little bit of coffee, but let's be totally honest. It doesn't have the body of a stout, traditional stout. So that again tells you that the roasted grains and the malts are down. So it doesn't have that body from the actual grains in the malt. It doesn't have the flavour or the intensity of flavour that we get from a traditional stout. So again, you start to kind of question that. It's not the best water because they're using Glasgow water, which of course is soft water. There's very low mineral content and very low calcium content, which is really needed to make a good stout. So that's it, and you're actually picking up slightly, ever so slightly metallic edges. It just gives me that little hint of, reminds me of Tennent's, which isn't unusual because it's because of the water in Glasgow that you get that flavour with Tennent's lager. And obviously some of the breweries round about kind of the edge of Glasgow suffer from that as well. And yeah, just overall, what they say on the bottle and what you taste in the glass, two different things. I mean, they maybe want to create these flavours, but trust me, they haven't. And while it sounds wonderful and great on the label, if I was taking it as a stout, I would probably say it's quite weak, lacking body, intensity, and just overall general kind of the right flavours, really. Um, yeah, it's more like a kind of dark lager with just a little bit more edge to it. And with the carbonation and everything else, yeah. I mean, it's going to be difficult to try and break down the flavours because there isn't that much of them. From a stout point of view, I mean, I can tell you what I should be tasting. But the problem is what I should be tasting and what I am tasting is two different things. And it's just way down. I mean, well, let's quickly do it. Carbonation is a big fucking one as well. I mean, that's just Seriously. Again, you kind of wonder, do they not realise stout is an ale? Do they not realise that? I mean, was that just a fucking step too far in the fucking manual? You know, how to make a fucking stout? Well, what's the first step? Right, no, 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 no. Right, what's step 12? Oh, it's something to do with carbonation. Oh, fuck it, it doesn't matter, man. Just fucking fire it, and we just give it the same level as we give all the fucking lagers that we do. And that's what it feels like, because obviously you hadn't fucking tasted it. If you tasted it and compared it to any other fucking stout, you would think, I think we've overcarbonated that. Ah, fuck it, no, who cares? Fuck them. You know what I mean? Is it that case? I mean, you do wonder, do they taste their own products? And whether you believe in the flavours or you don't believe in the flavours, there's no disguising that there's far too much carbonation. Right, let's quickly break down these flavours before I get into a rant. Right, start off with, it's quite a light front end. You're not getting big roasted grains, you're getting a bit of malt and a bit of grain. Very similar to kind of lager. You're getting kind of caramel tones, not even getting really kind of coffee tones. Toffee tones. You're just getting kind of dark caramel tones with a bit of kind of slightly light roasted grains. I mean, it's not as a case as it was like, whoa, you know what I mean? That kind of molasses kind of feel to it or anything like that. No, you're not getting that roasted, but you're getting this sweetness. So you've got this kind of level of sweetness that you would associate more with a lager than you would with a stout. And then you have the lightness flavours of the malt. And then with the roasty grains, are just nowhere near giving you anywhere in intensity. You're not getting the bitter acts. You're not getting any of that. So that's the problem, because you're not getting that. That sweetness has got nothing to kind of take the edge off it. So it's just kind of sitting there thinking, hey, nobody's challenging me. Oh, I'll just stay here with the same intensity. And that's what it feels like. You're thinking, it starts off like more like a dark lager than it does a stout. And then as you move into the mid tongue, you start getting light accents of coffee. I'm talking about very light, and maybe the odd little bit of bitterness you might kind of construe as being associated with kind of a dark chocolate kind of tones, but without the kind of dark chocolate tones to kind of back it up. So you're just getting ever so slight kind of bitter accents in the mid tongue, and ever so slight, maybe a light kind of coffee edge, and that's it. That level of sweetness is still there because there's nothing there to challenge it, because the grains don't really grow on it, the malt doesn't really grow on it. It's just that sweetness, just it's linear, right, front to back. You come out of that, and just as you're transferring from the kind of end of the mid tongue to the back of the mouth, that's when you start picking up that slightly kind of metallic edge. It's not as severe as you would get in 10-inch lager, but that was the first thing that picked up. Out of all of that, my first sip, the first thing I picked up was, one, right at the front of the mouth, this is overcarbonated. Two, where's the flavour? There's no flavour there in that type of stuff, apart from the sweetness. It's just a bit too much, you know? And then the thing that really got me was starting to pick up these metallic tones. Them kind of died down a little bit because obviously my mouth has got more acclimatized to it, but right at the front, boom, I'm thinking, the hell is this? Metallic tones at the back end, which just immediately I was starting to think of 10-inch lager. Yeah, strange that. And then, yeah, moves on to the kind of back of the mouth. You get these like kind of metallic edge tones as it transfers. And then everything just kind of dissipates, and the kind of last thing it kind of dissipates is the kind of sweetness. No bitterness there, no edge to it, no resistance, just very kind of what you maybe class as a little bit more of a crisp, clean finish. That again you would expect from a lager, not from a stout. So yeah, that's really strange. Yeah, Jesus. Right, what would I give this out of 10? Well, going by the price of it, for a 330 ml bottle, whether it's £2.25 or £2.35, it's overpriced for what it is. If you just take it as that, because it's 330 ml for that type of money, for what's supposed to be a stout, no. Secondly, you need to add something to your water, because right now, if you're making it with kind of raw filtered Glasgow water, then it ain't working for you, because it's completely the wrong type of bloody water you should be dealing with. You've got to basically up it to make it, you've got to change it to make it harder and that type of stuff, which is one of the big problems. Is the minute you start kind of changing the water and adding additional kind of minerals and other kind of additions to the water to try and kind of change it, it never really works, because it never really sets. This is the problem. It never really breaks down, because the problem is that under the natural process, it takes a while for these minerals to actually integrate into the water. So if you add it and everything else, it's never really cohesive. It never really kind of dilutes in properly and really be part of the water. And this is the problem, that I've obviously had beers where they do this, and they do kind of adjust the water to kind of suit kind of more of a kind of traditional kind of a setup, certain types of beers. But it's always lacking, because it always feels slightly disjointed. It never feels cohesive. So again, you're sometimes going to lose body because of that, or you can lose slightly kind of mouth feels with it and everything else. And there's other kind of things you can lose with it. And you kind of think, it feels that even if they tried to do that, it wouldn't work out for them. It'd be better if this was brewed in a harder water area rather than a softer water area. So there's kind of that kind of stands out as well. But the overcarbonation, I'm sorry, but there's no excuse for that. I mean, taste the bloody stuff. And even take some of your competitors and compare it, and you think, nah, it's just a little bit too much. And I'm trying to hold back the rifts. But yeah, it's disappointing. And then just the lack of kind of traditional stout flavours. That's a big problem for me. This strange sweetness, kind of clean finish, and just lacking the traditional flavours. And yeah, it's just more like if you actually did it as if you sold this as more of a kind of dark lager, like a Dunkel or something like that, then it'd actually be quite nice. Wouldn't you think? Yeah, that would work. It'd be nice and everything else. With a little bit of coffee tone, a little light kind of bitter accents. That's a class. That's actually quite nice. And there's a little bit of an edge to it compared to, like, say, a traditional one. So for me, you would get a better mark for that. But if you're putting it in as a stout and comparing it to all the kind of traditional stouts, then you're way down the list. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying and be fair. I'm going to mark it as a stout, and I'm also going to mark it as, say, a dark lager. Because it isn't a bad beer, it's just not a stout. And really, if I was marking that as a stout, then the best I could give it is a 3. A 3 out of 10 if I'm taking it as a traditional stout, and especially if I'm taking to all these flavour profiles they're claiming on the bottle that just aren't there. They're just kidding themselves on. It's fucking kidology. It's the same type of thing you get. It's a fucking fairy tale, that. I mean, who wrote it? Fucking Hans Christian Andersen or something like that. Brothers Grimm. There's fucking grim. From a point of view of being supposed to be a traditional stout, that's fucking grim. But if I take it as more of a dark lager, which I would probably say is closer to, and just how it basically drinks and everything else, and mouthfeel and everything else, it's actually quite nice if you look at it from that point of view. And it is a nice drinking beer. But yeah, it's definitely not a stout. So I was taking it more of a kind of slightly dark lager lager kind of edge to it and things like that. It's actually very pleasant and quite nice. On that basis, I'm thinking 5, maybe 6, and I'll be generous. I'll give it a 6. So if you take it more of a kind of a beer in its own right, kind of more towards, I'm not saying it's exactly the same as a dark lager, but it's a lot closer to a dark lager than it is to a stout. But if you look at it as a beer in its own right, then it's actually quite a nice, palatable drinking beer. If you're looking at it as a traditional stout, as what they're trying to sell it as, then it's a 3 out of 10. There you go. But I'm being slightly generous. In fact, no, I'm going to drop it down to 5, because remember that the charging for the bloody price, and it's a fucking Ponzi bottle as well, so fuck you. So you're down to 5. So a 5 if you take it as a beer in its kind of own right. But if you take it as a traditional stout, 3 out of 10, because it just isn't. It's a fucking disaster from that point of view. So it's a 350ml bottle. It's in between £2.25 and £2.35. It's 4.6%. And not a stout. So if you're looking to buy this as a stout, then don't, because you're not going to get what you want. And I wouldn't buy it again, and I certainly wouldn't basically promote it as being a stout. So, thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.